What's going on, everybody? This is Jimmy.
What's going on? It's Rachel.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on Relationship Real Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about the ninth principle.
All right. The ninth principle. Before we tell them about the ninth principle, what do we want them to do?
Well, of course, we want them to do what we always want them to do. That's to share, like, you know what I'm saying, and comment.
Come on in the what?
Come on in the living room with us
Come
today.
on in the living room with us
Come
today.
on in the living room with us and join this conversation because this is going to be a good one. I truly believe that everybody that's involved in a relationship has to deal with their emotions.
That's right.
At some point or another, your significant other is going to get on your nerves, and how you respond to it will make the difference in having a peaceful home or a war-filled home.
Yes. And listen, the only thing that makes this show be the best it can be is when we get feedback from you guys.
Exactly.
All right. So we want you to comment, as we said. Come on in the living room. There's plenty of seats. You may not see them all, but we have limitless number of seats. But yeah, talk to us. We got our regulars. I'm going to shout out to what is it, Pastor Mitchell?
Yep.
There's
Mitchell,
a Pastor Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
We've got who's Shannon and Shirley's friend who's been riding with us. The one you're gonna send the T-shirt to.
Oh,
you know who you are. Your name starts with an A. Both of us are bad with names.
Oh yeah, I'm
my
so
bad.
Sorry.
Of course, our goddaughter, Dion, she's in the house. I'm waiting for her to rep her city. So yes, don't forget to rep your city, like wherever you're watching us from. We would love to see that because we want to know who's listening. Right. All right, don't let us sit in the living room alone.
Exactly.
The name of this topic today is "Don't Make Me Lose." I'm gonna say my religion, like they used to say back in the day. But don't make me lose my religion.
Yeah.
Controlling your emotions.
And this is our ninth relationship principle. We have 10 relationship principles, and this is the ninth of the 10th relationship principles, which is controlling your emotions.
Right.
Because I do believe that this is a very, very vital piece to having that thriving relationship that we all desire. Because if we don't control our emotions, we will say and do some things that will breed some consequences that in most cases, none of us are really willing to deal with long term.
Listen, there are a lot of people behind bars.
Girl, look.
On TV on this show called Snapped because they were not able to control their emotions. And here's what's deep about controlling your emotions. Mm-hmm. You know, because sometimes people feel justified in their actions because what happened to them really upset them. It really made them angry.
Right.
So we want to separate those two. We do understand that things happen that should not happen, that's wrong. But that controlling your emotions piece, I mean, I think we're going to be speaking to ourselves today. And I'm going to run a little test in just a minute. But before I run that test, the test is going to be for us.
But you know, I'm glad you said that, you know, because back in the day, I used to hear my grandmother, my godparents, my mother, 2 wrongs don't make a right. You know, and unfortunately, like when you said, people sometimes feel justified in losing their emotion because they felt they were
losing control of them.
Right, losing control of their emotions because they felt they were done wrong. And the truth is, you know, 2 wrongs just don't make a right.
Right.
So now you're going to have to deal with some consequences based on your actions.
Right.
You know?
And emotions are a necessary part of life. You know, the emotions cause us to empathize and sympathize with people. So emoting is important. However, Angela Ruffin. Yes, girl. She's here.
On,
Angela, we were just shouting you out. Please charge it to our heads,
not our hearts,
and not our hearts.
Because I am 50.
And I will be 50 this year.
Yeah, so I'm horrible with names.
But to be honest with you, I never forget a face. So, you know, you too. Look at that. Look at that. We agree on that, baby. Give me some pounds.
Yeah, well,
we agree on that. Oh, Lord. If we talking about controlling our emotions. Y'all, this thing is, all right, Monroe. I see you, Monroe, in the house. But yeah, this topic is hot.
Yes.
Because let me just say this. I consider myself, and this is not just because of what I think, but just what I've been told in education over 20 years. I'm a pretty patient person. And of course, my tolerance can run out just like anybody else's. And I noticed the longer I have been in education, the smaller my patience gets, especially for foolishness. But here's what I have noticed in my relationships. I was married before, I'm married now, but the closer, the more intimate you are with someone, and intimate doesn't necessarily have to mean sexually intimate.
Right. We're talking about the
connections that you have with people. The more intimate you are with them, the easier those triggers, and we're going to talk about those triggers for losing your emotions, are set off.
Right.
And so as we have this conversation, I just want to set the stage that we do not come to you as just people that are talking about it and offering counsel about it, but we also sit to you as students at the throne of God, still working on our own controlling of emotions. So here's what we're going to do. And we've done this before when we talked about conflict. So now we're going to pick a number, and we have not discussed this number, people. He and I will pick a number from 1 to 10. And that 1 to 10 will represent 10 being how much you feel like we do control our emotions in our marriage. And 1 is like, we're not controlling those emotions at all. Okay. So the way we show that we give you an authentic answer, I'm going to count to 3.
Okay. So let me make sure I'm understanding.
Yes.
So 1 to 10 is how I myself feel
about us controlling our emotions.
Us controlling our emotions.
Like, how good are we at controlling our emotions? So hey, we could change this up.
No.
We could no. I kind of like this. We could do how well we think Jimmy controls his emotions, and we can do how well Rachel controls. Let me hear from the people.
As a matter of fact, that's what I want to do. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being yes, you control your emotions very well, and 1 means you don't control them at all. Or we want to hear from the audience. What do you think? And we want you to say Jimmy 10, Rachel 1.
Well, here's two things we want them to do.
No, Jimmy 10, Rachel 1.
Oh no! Hey, stop playing. First of all, we want y'all to put your number, of how well you think you control your emotions.
Okay.
10 being the best, 1 being the least, and then we want you to vote on: should we each give the number for both of us, or should we collectively come up with a number that represents how we control our emotions? Are y'all out there? Y'all heard what we said? So we would love to see, A, how well are you controlling your emotions? 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Baby, why don't you type it in there? That way for the people who missed it, they can go ahead and read it. And as we're talking.
So what's number 1?
Oh Lord, here we go, baby. Okay, here we go. 1, they are horrible at controlling their emotions. All right. 10, they do a very good job, excellent at controlling their emotions. Did I say 2 or 10? 10.
You said 10.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. 10, they're good at controlling their emotions, excellent at controlling your emotions. All right. And then any number in between would represent where you fall in that range. Okay. And then once you do that, I would love for you to say, would you rather, all right, Tommy said he's a 6. All right. Okay. What's up, LaTroy? Good to hear from you. All right. Don't forget, guys, to rep your city. Thank you. We felt like this topic was so pertinent, Tommy, to so many people, not just us. But I would say everyone struggles with this at one point or another. And the enemy will send people that will tap dance right on that nerve. All right. So I see one person with a 6. I don't think anybody has voted yet as to whether or not they want us to do each other. All right. She says, I'm at a 6 or 7. That's what Dion said, our goddaughter. You being honest with yourself, right?
Dion, look at my face.
Oh, I love what Angela said. I changed mine. In my second marriage, 7. And that's so powerful too. We can bring up some things as it relates to that, because Lord knows you learn some things. Like, people think that just because a marriage doesn't work out, that, everything is a failure. There's always something to learn from a marriage. You know what's so interesting?
Okay.
I'm so tired, but I got all this energy today. I feel like I'm in my classroom again. I'm busted right now. So yeah. Hilarious. So Angela said at first she was a 5, but now she's a 7 in her second marriage. Very
My man
good.
LaTroy say, I think I'm at an 8, but you gotta ask Christina.
See, that's why, you know what? That kind of answers what we might need to do.
Right.
Is tell each other's, because other people's perspective of you.
You want to do that on the air?
Yeah, we can do that on the air.
Okay. All right.
Why don't we just do both? Okay. I mean, we do have that freedom to do that. What's going on, Crystal? So glad you joined us. Go ahead and give us your number as far as how well you control your emotions.
Okay.
1 being like, you're not that good at it at all. 10, you are excellent at it. And then anything in between.
Right.
All right. While people are putting in their numbers, we're going to go ahead.
I want to see who's going to be anywhere between 8 to 10. LaTroy's already at 8. That's good.
Wait.
That's really good.
Our goddaughter said it really depends, as she puts laughter emoji. I could be a strong 8.5.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, Dion, I agree with you. When you sleep.
and let's answer as it relates to our significant others. And those of you who don't have significant others, you can just talk about you in general,
right.
You know, where you are with that.
Right.
But I do think it's pertinent, you know, because of my first statement, which was, when it comes to somebody that you're intimately closer to, you tend to, you know, go over the deep end.
Yeah.
So let's do this first.
Okay.
Let's first, but to make it fun, let's first do in general what we think about how well we control our emotions.
Okay.
As a couple during conflict, and then think about individually where we are.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So first we're doing as a couple, people. Oh, Crystal gave herself a 2. Crystal, I love the emoji. I love it. Listen, boo boo. This is a no judgment zone, people.
No, I'm serious.
All right.
I often tell my clients, I say, I'm not in a position of judgment. I'm only in a position of observation.
Listen.
I'm just observing, and no judgment here. As a matter of fact, I think we grow when we feel we're not being judged.
That's right.
You know, so let's go ahead and go with
this.
All
right, so here we go. I'm counting to 3. We're not going to hesitate. The first number we're giving you is what we think in general of how good we are at controlling our emotions.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
6.5.
4.75. Collectively, you think we're at a 6.5. I said 4.75.
Right.
2 days ago, I think we was at a 1.
No, you were at a 1.
You see. Wait.
I was probably at a 1.9.
First, you got to be honest. That's the first thing. Let's go ahead and put that 1.9. Okay. So now I don't even know how this vote gonna go. How good do we think the spouse is at controlling their emotions? So, baby, you can go ahead and start.
No, ladies are first.
I knew you were gonna pull that card.
Ladies are first.
Slick with it.
I'm a gentleman.
For you, I think. Well, first of all, you've already said to me, and it's true. You know, you have little to no patience. So I feel as if most of the time. Okay, let me say this, because I see growth. I do.
Well, thank you.
So during conflict, I think you're at a solid 5.
Okay.
But interestingly enough, when it comes to little things, whether it be like being bothered when you don't want to be bothered, you know, you're at a 2, 1.5.
The 2, 1.5?
Yeah. It's like, and I don't even think you realize it because it's like a default
just
for you.
Just gonna give me a 2.
Baby, you can't give me my score.
I don't want the 1.5.
You giving a score for me. I'm giving a score for you. Be happy for that 1.5. Tommy said, I'm guessing it depends on what and how emotional something makes you become.
Right.
But and let me tell you,
depends on what it is.
There have been many a nights that this one was sleeping next to me, and I was just watching him for a good 5 to 10
like
minutes.
That Facebook, you seen that Facebook post of that lady, her husband was sleeping, she wake up, she slap it real hard, pound, then fake like she sleep again.
Now, I've never done that, but just looking at how somebody can look so peaceful and innocent and then wake up and cause all kind of havoc. That it's just, I feel like God did that. If we didn't have that moment of sleep,
let me see.
We would never cut off, you know, the conflict. Like when he's sleeping and peaceful like that, I'm like, he just looks so innocent. He's so precious. And then he wakes up and opens his mouth. Okay, baby, you go ahead and give me. I mean, if y'all feel me, honestly, can I get some likes, please? If y'all know what I'm talking about, please. That would be great.
On the regular, I would have to be honest. You're probably I'll give you a strong 7.
For what? Controlling?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. But
wow. Here we go. Here come the conjunction.
No, that's on the average.
Okay.
However, you have the ability to be you have that passive aggressive thing about you, you know, that mouth, you know, so you know that sometimes gets you around a good solid 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we're both sitting under the bus together right about now.
I'm not.
I got a 3.5.
I got a 2.1.
You got a 1.5-2, depending on the day.
You said 1.5.
Tommy said, "Don't cut him, Miss Rogers." Listen, this is called relationship real talk. Y'all can sit up there and act like.
Listen,
there are not moments in your relationship where you're like, Lord, I love this man that you've given to me, that I've said my I do's with, or this woman. But you can't tell me there's some things that don't rise up in your spirit sometimes, and you have to rebuke it. Crystal, can I get an amen? With you too. Can I get an amen? I need somebody to support this.
But guys, no, but seriously though, you know, one of the scriptures that came to mind when we were talking about this was Ephesians 4:26-27. And it says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil. Now, the most enlightening thing about this passage for me, God is not saying we cannot get angry.
Correct.
And I appreciate that.
I know you
that would be so unfair.
I knew you would be strong on that.
But what he says is don't sin in your anger.
And what does that look like?
Don't talk too much when you're angry.
So if you talk too much, you're sinning.
Yeah, when you talk too much, you be sinning.
But when you talk too much, y'all, I just pray that we can get through this. This is what, because the shade of it all. Matter of fact, does the lighting look a little darker?
Okay.
She said, I totally get it.
Hold on. We're
gonna let them see it.
Listen, y'all, this right here is funny. I totally get it. Kicked the hell out of my husband and pretend I was a bad dream.
It was a bad dream. Let me give you a high five, Angela.
Angela, that was a good one.
Listen.
Oh my goodness, that tickled me.
Listen, I need some of y'all to be as transparent as Angela right now. And
that was funny.
And this may be TMI, but baby, I don't know if you know this or if you've sensed it, but when you're sleeping, if I think something sounds like a snore, I will gently like move you or push you or tell you.
I've noticed you doing that.
Even though it doesn't hurt or anything, does it?
No.
Yeah, it's just so that I can get to sleep.
Yeah, when you snore, I just record you. I don't touch you. I just let you do what you do.
Did y'all just feel that the bus doom? All right, guys. So yes, I do love that scripture, as you said, because sometimes as Christians we feel bad about being angry. Sometimes it's like, I know for me, I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Right.
When I get that angry, I really try to be even tempered across the board, because I don't want that factor, my husband, to control my emotions.
Right.
And so when I do get angry, part of the time I'm like angry that I allowed myself to get angry. And so, but it's like God knew we're human, and in that humanness and that filthiness and sinfulness, you know, we're not always gonna do the right thing. So I'm gonna give you an out. You can be angry,
just don't sin.
But just don't sin.
Don't do anything and don't say anything.
Right.
Essentially, God is pretty much saying to us, don't do or say anything that you're gonna regret.
Right. And let me just be, we're just being transparent. That second part, do not let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity to the devil. Y'all, I wholeheartedly believe that. And I have heard people from the pulpit and everywhere else say, I have never let the sun go down. That's a lie from the pit of hell for me. And this one here, we do try.
Whoa.
We do try.
Whoa.
Baby, you have gone to bed You have never gone to bed angry at me?
I've gotten into bed angry. Yes, I can truthfully say that. I have gotten into bed at times upset with you.
Right, but you were angry.
Right, that's what I said.
Did the sun go down on our wrath?
But I didn't go to sleep.
So by the time you went to sleep, you weren't angry with me no more. Mm-hmm. Y'all, this is new to me. This is a news flash. I'm going to tell y'all right now. I have gone to bed angry. But here's the thing.
And woke up angry.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We discussed. It's not like we're going to bed angry and we didn't discuss stuff. Stuff is discussed. Sometimes stuff is discussed in its entirety. Mm-hmm. Way too much.
Right.
And so I'm going to bed, I'm praying, talking to the Lord. And I think that's a big thing there too. Like, I guess the biggest thing is you shouldn't let it consume you.
Right.
To the point where you can no longer even function within your marriage. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to consume me. I want it to, to fizzle out.
Right.
But I have recalled waking up and I did not sleep well. Mm-hmm. Because I went to bed angry. Mm-hmm. And so it's not something I do often, but I'm just being transparent about it. It's something that I know I have to work on because God knows what's best for us.
Right. I want to look at a couple of comments.
There's some comments here.
This one says, in my marriage, oh Lord.
Who's speaking?
This is Dion. She says, I guess I would have to admit that I'm about a 4. The moment I start unleashing my emotions, I start bringing up the emotions from deep within. Okay.
Stuff I should have let go.
Right. Mm-hmm. My pretty side comes out.
Petty.
Oh, my petty side.
You are beautiful, sweetie.
Yes.
But that petty side come out.
Yeah.
Petty.
I like how, because what she said she was an 8 at first.
She done gave us all kind of numbers.
She started telling the truth.
She had an 80%, a 70%. Now she done went down to a 40%. She fell in the class.
Also, Tommy said something very powerful. He said, you also have to be able to balance each other out. You can't both be on 10 at the same time and be respectful to each other. Tommy, that is facts.
That is so true.
That is facts, my brother.
That is so true.
Yeah, with a name like Wolf, you know what I'm saying? He don't play, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I think that what he said is so critical to even us understanding we are not perfect and marriages are not perfect. Mm-hmm. And you had said this a while back. We've always said this is like somebody sometimes has to be strong for the pair.
Right.
For the relationship.
Right.
When he is strong, she is weak. When she is strong, he is weak.
Yeah. It only becomes volatile when both people go left. If one can manage to maintain his or her composure during those heated moments, it doesn't get to the point where things are out of control.
But
look at what Angela said. She said he is too funny. Lies.
Oh yeah, calling out lies there. But what did Tommy say? He says you also have to be able to balance. We just read that. I'm sorry, my apologies for that. But hey, how you doing, Trish? So glad you could join us. But I just feel like this topic is too important not to be, just so real and transparent about this, because let's be honest, guys, when you don't control your emotions and you think about the ripple effect, mm-hmm. and that's not just going to affect your marriage, it affects the children, anyone in the home.
Yeah.
It affects, like that whole conference we did, your marriage being able to thrive. You might be in a survival mode. Why? Because emotions are all over the place.
Exactly.
So I certainly think that it's necessary for us to kind of call this out for what it is. And let's talk about some, what were you going to say, baby?
Well, and I like the fact that we're bringing some lightheartedness to such a tough subject.
This is true.
Because I know that not just us are dealing with having to sometimes wrestle with our emotions. Mm-hmm. And so we want to just go ahead and get into this discussion, because we want to talk about what are the characteristics.
What does that look like?
Yeah, what are the characteristics of uncontrolled emotions? Because some people may not really identify with what that looks like. Because
that's right.
Sometimes when we've done stuff all our lives,
Yes, and I would love for
we kind of just think it's the norm.
We think it's the norm, mm-hmm. or we say things like, "Well, that's just how I am."
Yeah,
and see, that's just how I am is a fixed mindset,
mm-hmm.
and we have to have a growth mindset as it relates to being honest about who you are,
mm-hmm.
and checking that against your principles and your core values. Is that okay?
Right.
And are you willing to do what it takes to grow?
And if you don't have principles, check them against principles.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we may not have the principles that are active in our lives. And so we in gist, we know, okay, whatever. But when we're feeling however we're feeling, we just let it go.
And let's be honest, we really do live in a time, and have been for some time. And while I'm talking, guys, if you can go ahead and put some examples of what you think uncontrolled emotions look like in a relationship, that would be great. But yeah, we live in a time where there's a lot of people that don't want to focus, like they were raised a certain way, and they were raised with principles, but they don't always want to think about that. They don't want to focus on it. They don't want to be intentional about sticking to their
there you go.
Principles.
That's the word.
What they do is, and as humans, like I said, as sinful beings, our default is to do what feels good
in that moment.
And sometimes what feels good in that moment is not always good for you.
Yes.
Because I think, I mean, you can raise your hand. I'm raising my hand. There have been many of times I have said something in the heat of the moment when my emotions were uncontrolled, and later on I'm like, oh, why did I say that? You know, I should not have said that, even though at the time it felt good to say it. At the end of the day, did it help or harm my relationship? And that's with anybody. It could be a spouse, it could be a sibling, it could be whoever. So that's a huge thing.
And so there. I'm glad you said that, because now we can segue into what the first characteristic is. It's anger outbursts. Angry outbursts. When you just let go, let it rip. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you have no control over your tongue and what's coming out of your mouth. That is a characteristic of uncontrolled emotion.
And I would tag something with that. When those angry outbursts turn into attacking the person and not the issue.
Well,
even let me and you and I
so
talked
you're saying
about this.
In addition to just
the outburst is wrapped in a package where now you're, you know, what you were talking about has been pushed to the side because somebody threw a foul ball, you know, and now you're insulting each other, and you're attacking the person and not the issue. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that the issue did not come from that person. However, when you continue to focus on that person, what happens is the other person puts a wall up.
And they become defensive.
Right. There is no progression towards resolution. But when you deal with the issue, to be honest with you, even the person who just has the outburst and does the name call, if you deal with the issue, you might actually start to a journey where you can actually get what you want.
Right. Well, you know, and again, you named some words earlier, intentional and maturity. One of the things, and I often say this, you know, if you want to know how mature you are, monitor how you deal with conflict. That is your litmus test to see what your level of maturity is when you're angry. That's when you'll know. So again, number one, the first characteristic of uncontrolled emotions is angry outbursts, right? And so what is number two?
Number two is sudden irritability. And I'm glad that's number two, because it ties in really good with what Dion is saying. She says, that's holding in what you should have talked about from the jump. Sometimes, and I've been guilty of this as well, you suppress it all in the name of avoiding conflict, or whenever something does come up, because let's just be honest here. Conflict is a part of life.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's always going to happen. The question is, how are you going to deal with it, right?
Right. Or how do you deal with the conflict? You know, because conflict can stay small.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, because here's the deal. I think we talked about this last week. By accident, in a lot of cases, we can have conflict. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be an accident, right? But when it was an accident, can I say, oh my goodness, babe, I'm so sorry. You know what? That's not what I meant. You know, I meant A, B, C, or D.
Right.
I didn't mean the way that you said it, right? Or I could take the position, what are you talking about, old crazy woman? And now it's going to escalate because your feelings are already hurt, and my response didn't help the situation.
Right. And in essence, what happened is the other person can be left feeling disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is something recurring. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, here we go again. I'm saying this and you're saying this. So it really can also expose a bigger underlying conflict. But I want to get back to what Dion was saying, and then I'll let you, with that irritability, sometimes I find that when people are suddenly irritable, there's really something else that's kind of nagging
at you.
It's more than that thing. It's more than that thing. Yep. So if you've been suppressing it, or if you've been holding resentment, all you got to do is tickle that thing a little bit.
Yeah.
And you just end up, the other person's like, wait a minute, where'd that come from?
And you know, understand. And I love to play the devil's advocate because I do understand how that irritability can arise.
Definitely.
I've been telling you how I feel and you keep ignoring it.
Right.
I say to you what I need or want and you keep ignoring it. So when you open your mouth, my nerves grind. So I'm irritable every time you say something to me. You know what I mean? And so I understand there's so many different dynamics where that sudden irritability can come about. But what I'm challenging even the person who may be feeling those things that I just said or other things, make sure that your emotions are in line with your desires for your relationship. If you're claiming that you want a healthy, thriving, happy home, your emotions have to align with that. And the only individual that can do that
is you.
You know, and so we really, really want to be mindful. Although there are good scenarios, we can come up with
definitely
a unlimited amount of scenarios. But at the end of the day, it's going to always come back to how am I dealing with said issue? You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So we have angry outbursts is number one, sudden irritability, and then number 3 is that passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, sometimes you in your efforts to control your emotions, you call yourself like dealing with it, and you kind of suppress it. But when you suppress it, it goes into that place of I'm appearing to be passive, but I'm aggressively passive.
Right.
So whether it be the snide comments or, you know, the shortness of things or the eye rolling, what have you, that's an attempt for you to control your emotions, but it's still a representation of an uncontrolled emotion.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's cloaked. It's covert.
You're doing that because something internal has still set you off.
Right.
So I'm going to pretend like I'm under control, but I'm going to say something. Or
I'm going to try to be under control.
But I'm going to say something that I know going to get on your nerves.
Well, here's the thing. People who tend to do that, because I know I can be passive aggressive about things.
Oh, hold on. Wait,
baby, stop.
No, seriously.
Let me make my point before I forget, because you're trying to be funny. I can be passive aggressive about things. It's not that I'm trying to fool myself. It's actually me trying to find a way to not make such a big deal of something and to not blow up. But yet what ends up happening is, I guess it really is still bothering me. So it ends up coming to the surface in very subtle ways.
It ain't subtle though. I just want to tell you.
Right. But from what I'm thinking it is, but it's not a thing of, oh, let me fool myself. But it's not a way that I like to operate. And I've realized, especially with you, I'm better off just coming out and saying it, and especially saying it during a time that it's not high tension, so that it can kind of go over well. But what's another one?
Another one is, of course, defensiveness. That's the 4th one. Being defensive. When we become super defensive, that's an emotion. That is a uncontrolled emotion. I don't want to hear what you're saying. What you're saying hurts. You know what I'm saying? We become really defensive. I don't want to take ownership of
what was said,
or what was said, or what's going on, or how my actions may have contributed to this place that we're in now.
Right.
So I become defensive. I'm not going to take any responsibility. No, it wasn't me. It's you.
And sometimes we do that. You have things that have happened in the past that is residue that's coming on, and sometimes let me just affirm people who actually, they're not trying to be defensive, but they might be in a relationship with someone. You must have just read Hillis's comment.
Yeah.
But yeah, they might be in a relationship with someone where they actually feel like they always have to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. It's still an unhealthy situation, mm-hmm. but it's a way that you're trying to control your emotions, because when you're defensive, what that means is there's an offense. You feel as if there's an offense coming your way.
Right. And you know what? I'm glad you said that. And even with some of my clients, I explained to them, I said, if that's your default to say, if your default is saying, I always feel like I got to defend myself, mm-hmm. you're looking for a reason to defend yourself. It may not even be there, but
possibly
you're looking for any reason to go to your norm. Your norm is defending yourself. So if you're searching for a reason to defend yourself, you're going to find something.
I do believe in some cases, yeah.
But don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying, we have to be very, very careful of giving ourselves excuses for certain behaviors.
Definitely.
So if I always listen to what people say, people don't realize that we disclose a lot about ourselves when we talk. I always feel like I got to defend myself. Always? You always feel like you got to defend yourself. That says something. That's talking about your mentality. And it could speak to you being super sensitive.
Could be.
You know, think it always. You mean in every scenario, you feeling like you got to defend yourself?
And baby, I here's the thing. You're exactly right. But I do feel like there's more than one side to that coin.
No,
I feel as if it could be that.
When we're honest about the scenarios that we're dealing with, when we feel we have to defend ourselves, mm-hmm. most of the time they are not as magnified or as aggrandized as we make them.
Yeah, you just have to be mindful
because of some sensitivities we have to some other unresolved issues we had in our lives.
Definitely.
We respond to things in manners that we shouldn't. And we're more heightened sensitively than we should be. Yep. And so we have to be very, very careful about giving ourselves those outs to display behaviors that are not healthy.
Definitely. But we always want to make sure we present all sides of it. And we're actually going to talk about that introspection in just a minute. But I wanted to say, yes, I was looking at the comment.
Have you ever thought the reason people are so defensive is because they have no offense?
Now that is true.
Hillis, brother, that was straight from the throne room of God. They don't have a true argument for what you just said to them. So now they gonna fight. They defensive. Because what you said to them was true. And it hurt. So now I'm becoming defensive. I was guilty of sin, but I didn't want to accept the guilt. Now I'm gonna throw on these gloves and I'm gonna become defensive. Amen, brother.
I think there's a litany of reasons why people could be defensive, but he did hit that nail on that head.
But I'm serious, in more cases than not, that's normally what it is.
I did want to read some stuff that people put.
Okay.
Hillis, you hit the nail on the head with this one too. Yes, he likes to play the devil's advocate. Makes me wonder. All I can say, Hillis, is keep praying for me, okay? When you live with the devil's advocate, the agitator, that's a reason to control your emotions right there.
Oh my
Angela
goodness.
said you can come off sarcastic.
Yep.
Yes, coming off sarcastic is another way that falls into that passive aggressive umbrella. Mm-hmm. Yes, Angela, the tone of your voice
speaks so loudly.
Speaks so loud. Mm-hmm. And that is something that, and I know with my husband, I've always told him that, because, he's an eagle, he's all about, straightforward and putting everything out there and very assertive. And I tell him, baby, you got a lot of great things to say, but the tone in which you say it will determine whether or not that person or I can more easily receive it. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, even if it's the truth and the truth is what it is, if you really care about the truth, you care about it being effective and being able to see that person receive it. So many times we do lose, when we're losing our control of our emotions, our tone changes. And I think that's a human thing. But let's be honest, everything we just mentioned here as it relates to what does losing control of your emotions look like, they have to fall into subjection to God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to be intentional about how you're interacting when conflict comes and what your emotions look like during that time.
So you jumping to the solutions already.
I mean, I was segueing, baby. That's what a segue looks like.
Right.
Put segue on the screen there for me. That's what a segue looks like. Go for it, sweetie. Why are you looking at me like that?
Girl, if you actually, so now that we've mentioned what the characteristics of uncontrolled emotions look like, let's talk about the solutions to controlling your emotions. What do we need to do to control our emotions?
What do you think? What do you think we need to do?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do is identify. I think we need to really just identify
the trigger.
Identify that thing that sets me off, my trigger. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's important because if I know in advance that this tends to get on my nerves.
The last one.
Right. The last one, or next to the last one, or whatever the case may be.
On it.
If I realize that this certain thing gets on my nerves, the greater responsibility is on me now. Not the thing that's getting on my nerves.
Because what starts to happen is, and I tell my students this all the time, when that person, especially people who don't have your best interests at heart, but or when they're just looking for things to hurt you, when they know what your triggers are, and you continue to react in such a way,
they're controlling
you in essence.
Period.
And
no, it
doesn't make it right.
They're controlling
and so it doesn't make it right what they're doing.
Right.
But I like the way you said it. Once you have identified that, then it is on you. It is your responsibility to work on that thing so it does not become a trigger. And I don't know if you guys noticed the unifying theme here, even when we do our lives every week, is being introspective.
Right.
And being able to do the work. Because if I'm being totally honest, of course, I want him to fix some things. You know, there's some things I can sit down and point it out. I could probably write a book or two. I'm messing. But
keep on going.
But I got to sit down and write them same 2 books for myself. Because if I don't fix what's in me, I'm not going to help this situation anyway, because we're supposed to be one.
Right.
And we're supposed to be walking in one accord.
Right. Right.
With those conflicts that we're dealing with. I think there's some people saying some things. What were you going to say, babe?
Well, no, I was just simply saying, making sure that we understand, when we're talking about these solutions, we said the first one is identifying your triggers. Really, really, I want you to take home with the, identifying your trigger. Once you recognize what that trigger is, now you have to take ownership that this bothers me. And now I need to take responsibility of doing whatever it takes for that to no longer bother me.
That's right.
It is not the responsibility of the thing to stop. It is your responsibility of not allowing the thing to bother you. It's like fear. If you have a fear of snakes are not going anywhere. But if you can get over being fearful of a snake, it doesn't matter that they exist. You know what I'm saying? But we want the snakes to disappear, but the fear is still going to be there.
And the thing is, it's about that work. Like sometimes we just don't want to do the work because the work hurts. The work requires you to peel back some layers that you may not want exposed. When you peel back a layer, you could be peeling back a layer from 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And once you open up Pandora's box, as we say, then you got to be ready for everything else that comes with it. However, here's what I have realized, because I'm a proponent of counseling. I've been to counseling. I've been to couples counseling with my children. I believe in mental health. And what I realize is when you don't peel back the layers, all you do is delay the healing process. It's like constantly picking. You have a cut. If you keep picking at that scab, you're not really, A, you're not giving it a chance to heal, and B, you're making it susceptible to infection.
Right.
Because the scab is there to protect the wound.
from outside,
from any outside microorganisms or things of that nature, or harm. But if you keep picking at it, but you're not truly allowing yourself to heal, you're not going to move forward.
And let me just say this to people of a darker hue. It is really taboo for us to seek counseling. And for those of us who are Christians, the Bible constantly reminds us all over the place about seeking wise counsel, surrounding yourself with wise people. And the reason that God is encouraging us to do that is because God, first of all, recognized that we don't have all the answers. Secondly, God recognizes that a lot of the issues that I may be dealing with, someone else may have already overcome. And that all I have to do is just bring it to their attention, and they could probably help me navigate that thing. So as people of a darker hue, stop being afraid of asking for help. People to help you navigate through some situations. Right, or a person or people. Yeah. That's why wise counsel is the key word.
Definitely.
And the reason that you know it's wise because you've observed them over a period of time. You know what I mean? And so don't be afraid to ask for that help. 2, here's something I know because of what I do, working with couples. Some people may not find it as difficult to ask for the help. But once the help doesn't feel good, they flee, right? So go through the full process of being helped, and then your healing will come.
Commit to the process.
Because I mentioned this earlier, unresolved issues, those things that, those triggers, all a trigger is an unresolved issue. It's an issue you did not deal with. And it's still there. And anytime something looks like it comes up, we feel that same emotion that we felt when we first experienced that trigger.
That's right.
So it's an unresolved issue. So we have to be willing sometimes to go back to the trauma to now become healed. Because see, when we were trauma, it's like getting a stab wound and you've never treated it. Now it's infected and it's still, so anytime somebody touches, but sometimes you got to go back to the doctor, and what are they going to do? They're going to open that wound up to clean it out.
They got to clean it out.
They're going to open it back up first.
That's right.
They're going to open it. That's painful.
That's right.
And then they have to disinfect it. They got to clean it. And then they're going to stitch you up. Even that stitching up process is a little painful. It's still so, but until you go back and get rid of the infection that is set in.
That's right.
See, the infection is stuff like triggers. The infection is stuff like passive aggressive behavior, and the infection is stuff like defensiveness. The infection is stuff like angry outbursts. Those are the infections. Those are symptoms of infection.
Right.
And so we have to realize that sometimes we cannot be afraid to go through the full process. A lot of people have gone to counseling, but a lot of them didn't finish it.
They didn't commit to it.
They didn't finish
every part of it.
Right.
And even after you get that cut and they open it and clean it out, I don't know if you've ever gotten stitches before or been in that kind of situation, but it starts to itch. It might still agitate you a little bit. Why? But it's a constant reminder of, wait a minute, there was a wound there, but you still got to push through it.
Right.
You still got to get through it. You might want to scratch it a little bit, but you still want to make sure that you're committing to that healing process.
Exactly.
For yourself.
So the solution number 1 to controlling your emotions is identify your triggers and recognize that it is now your responsibility to diffuse that trigger, to make that thing no longer effective in making you angry anymore.
That's right. That's right.
So what is the second one?
You have to figure out how it made you feel.
So not only do you need to identify the trigger, you need to now say, how does that thing make me feel?
And kind of sit in that for a second, because how it makes you feel is going to determine what our third thing is.
Exactly.
Right? I almost can't even not say those. And in the interest of time, we probably want to say those two together.
Okay.
How did it make you feel? And what was your response?
Right.
Let me tell you why that's important. Because once you've identified your triggers, you start to feel that way. That should be an indicator to you, wait a minute. This is that thing that causes me to feel this way. and causes me to act this way. And the last time I acted this way, it did not serve me well. It did not serve my relationship well. It did not serve my children well. I ended up, somebody had to come bail me out. Somebody had to come do, you see what I'm saying? So you got to be able to connect the triggers to how they made you feel
and how you
responded, so that you can actually, and a trigger is just a stimulus.
That's it.
And in science, we talk about stimuli and response. Without the stimuli, there is no response. However, because we cannot control those extrinsic factors, those things that we are not in control of, we cannot control that. However, the minute we start to feel a certain way as a result of that, we can now work on, I choose to react differently in this situation. And people, let me be honest with you. Anybody who calls themselves a Christian, calls themselves a person who believes in growth, internal growth, if you cannot look back, if you were in a relationship before, the relationships you've been before, if you're doing the same things you've always been doing as it relates to your triggers and controlling your emotion,
you have not grown.
You have not grown. And notice what I said. If you're doing some of the same things, I'm not saying controlling your emotions still won't be a challenge.
Right.
But you should be able to start removing some of those triggers.
Right. And your responses should be totally different.
Right.
In a better way.
Right.
not, I used to slap
and I got
people.
worse.
Now I shoot them.
Now I go upside their head with that.
Right. No. We're saying they should get better. Just to piggyback on what you said, look what Angela said. Angela said this: pray before you respond. We have the choice on how we react. We do it, guys. Listen, Rachel and I was just talking about this prior to this show about the choices we make or fail to make. They have consequences. When you choose to do something or choose not to do something, something is following it. It's almost like those bills that come on a 28-day cycle or 29-day cycle. They coming. The moment you sign the paperwork, you just got that cycle going for however long those terms of service is. And that's how we have to realize about the decisions we make. We can choose to respond a certain way. I know that kind of bothered me. I felt something in my shana right then, but I'm not gonna respond
right
in a manner that's going to cause me more grief.
That's right. And here's what's so deep about what you're just saying. When you said, when you do this, then this is what ends up happening. That word consequence, we tend to think of it in a negative way.
Right.
But when you look at the meaning of con, it means with.
Right.
And then when you're talking about the sequence part, in order. All right. So as we talk about solutions to controlling your emotions, identifying your triggers, identifying how it made you feel, and then dealing with your response, there is a consequence to either removing the triggers or not removing the triggers. It is sure to come because it is with sequence. And I think that is such a powerful thing, because sometimes we think we can control it on one end. Look how you looking at me. I know that look. Sometimes we think we can control it on one end, but we have not pulled it up by its root.
Right.
Which is the trick, huh?
You just got cute to me, girl. That was smart.
He said I just now got cute. Y'all pray for me. But yeah, you got to pull it up by the root. And when you are dealing with the trigger, that is you pulling up the root. And when I tell you, I'm sure all heaven rejoices every time we remove a trigger.
Exactly. When we don't respond like we used to, your guardian angel is like, yeah.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Because they're happy that we're growing. You know what I'm saying? And I firmly believe that. And it should be our daily goal to improve each day.
That's right.
And because you said something that was very key a few moments ago. If you still doing today what you was doing 10 years ago, as it relates to your emotions, something wrong.
There's some work that should have been done. It doesn't mean you're going to reach, the summit. Like, oh, I've arrived. I really think it's a work of a lifetime in these imperfect bodies that we have.
You know
minds.
What? even though it's a work of a lifetime,
yes,
the progress does not have to be at a snail's pace.
No, this is true.
That progress is based on how intentional and consistent we are with this desire to change. That's what it's all about. Because I promise you, if you analyze your life right now, anything that you have achieved in life, I promise you 2 things came along with that achievement: consistency and intentionality. I guarantee you those 2 things were there.
This is true.
And if you want to look at your failures, I bet you 2 things came along with those failures: your lack of consistency and your lack of intentionality. Those things, they just seem to marry when it comes to us either succeeding or failing. Because when we really are honest with ourselves and we look back at our behavior in certain areas of our lives, we were pretty consistent in doing whatever we were doing.
I was just about to say
that. That we got.
We're actually that intentionality and consistency also is connected to negative things as well. Like if you didn't get the things you wanted, that means you were consistent and intentional about other things.
Right.
As opposed to being consistent and intentional about those things that you needed to work on for growth purposes.
There we go with those consequences.
They
always
either way, because I don't want people to think, because when we talk about intentionality, we always talk about it in a positive sense. But you can be very intentional
from a negative perspective.
Exactly.
And most of us are.
Right. And so that is what you're getting.
I intentionally cussed them out when they did so and so.
I felt that in my shana now.
Well, look at this comment Hillis said.
Yes.
Read that for me.
Yeah, I thought that was deep. Hillis Jeffrey says, live a life of prayer. So in the moment, you always have something Christ-like to say. And let me tell you something. You hit the nail on the head with that. Everything that we're doing, we talk about, we give our biblical scriptures to support what we're talking about. And we always talk about it in a practical sense. But at the end of the day, we have to live practically with God. We have to have daily devotion. We have to talk with him as if he's your friend. I have nothing against people who do all the embellishments when they pray. To each his own. But it should get to the point.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, our Heavenly Father who sits high on the throne and looks low like a sinner such as I. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, God is not so far from us. That's why he sent his son to die on the cross.
God wants us to talk to him.
He sent his son.
He didn't need an ego boost.
We don't need a priest to intercede on our behalf. Jesus Christ is doing that. And all we have to do is come to him. And our relationship should be as such. Because let me tell you, there are many days that this one starts saying something or acting a fool.
Whoa.
And I audibly, Lord, I need you to help me right now. Jesus, help me. And that Jesus help me is not even a sarcastic Jesus help me. It's Jesus help me right now because he just pounced on a trigger. And I need help to not make that thing continue to make me react in the way that I've been reacting, because it is counterproductive. It does not help. It only hurts me and the relationship.
Amen. Look at what Hillis said. He says, it's hard to pray in the moment, but if you already surround yourself in prayer, you are reminded a kind word turns away wrath. Hillis, man, listen, I don't know what happened in the last 10 or so years.
Here come Hillis.
From us being in Huntsville
together. I can
always
see when it's coming.
But something happened, man. You've gotten wise. Maybe your wife has finally introduced some wisdom into you, man. But those are profound statements. I'm joking. He's always been.
He's trying to tap on your triggers.
Yeah. But no, that is very profound. It is hard, and we all know that.
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment, man, you be like, pray, and because
last thing I want to do is pray, right?
But a prayer doesn't mean that we have to have this long dissertation.
Right.
Like you just said, Lord help me.
Lord help me.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
I mean, whatever. God
Jesus
knows,
be offense. People joke about
God
that.
knows, God knows exactly what you need or what you mean when you say that in that moment, right? And so I do appreciate Hillis and Hillis and Angela and all of you guys really giving us your feedback, because it is powerful. Those things are powerful. Tommy Wolf, the man, Tommy, look, man, we'll sing.
Thank you.
We'll pay you later, man, for those those kind words.
Yes,
man.
but let me just say this. Unfortunately, and I can't speak for Jimmy, a lot of the things that I talk about come from mistakes that I've made in the past. I know he's commenting. Yeah, come from a lot of the mistake. Unfortunately, there's some things that I had to learn the hard way.
Right. All of us.
And I'm the youngest of 5. And there are 2 categories of people as it comes to experiences. Some people like to go through the experience, and some people like to learn from other people's experience.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of students who are like, well, I don't believe that. They're skeptics. I don't believe that. I mean, will that really happen? That's why their phones are cracked, because they listen to the thing that says this is a crack-free glass, and they'll throw it down. They've actually told me this. I'm not making this up. But I'm one of those people. I would rather learn by seeing other people going through it. Not that I want them to go through it,
right.
But it's like, wow, that may not be a good idea. I don't need to try that to know that I don't want that to happen to me.
Let me tell you something.
But in life, I have unfortunately still made some mistakes.
That is my mantra. It's like, when I was in law enforcement, here's what I could not understand about drugs. Like, I get the first crackhead. I do. The first one I get, crackhead. You didn't really know what it was. You tried it, you got high, but people who saw you as a crackhead that tried crack, I'm like, dude, like, you see what he did to
that? Yeah.
Right. Like, what made you think that wasn't going to be your outcome? You know what I'm saying?
And
I would rather learn from somebody else's experience than for me to go through it. And I just use that.
Yeah, I know you use that as
everybody understands what that looks like.
Yeah, and sometimes people
or alcohol or whatever the case may be. It's like, no, even with cheating.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time, like, okay, the end results of cheating is never positive. Like, why do you want to take that route?
Right. But you bring up a good point. Why would you want to take that route? But yet, as humans, we still do, which goes back to something I think it was Hillis said. That is why we have to daily spend time with God.
Right.
In devotion and prayer, because our weaknesses are there. And some of us have even genetic predispositions and affinities towards drugs, alcohol, certain behaviors.
Because it's a what do we call it? It's those curses.
You have generational curses.
Those generational curses
which come in through the genes,
right? And they never can affect you as long as you don't do that thing.
Right. But however, depending on your exposure to it, depending on your emotional state, the things that are happening, like, for example, during this COVID-19 thing, I'm pretty sure, and that's why I'm praying for people that are going through on so many levels, not just financial, not just the disease, but there are so many things that have been triggered as a result of going through. Because you and I both know there are people you'll talk to, there are friends that I've had that are like, I never thought I would have.
Right.
You guys fill in the blanks. I never thought he would have. So I always say, you never know what you're going to do or not do, but at least you can protect yourself. Right. And it should be a spiritual protection. Case in point, if you walk out the door, you got to walk out the door, but there are gunshots going.
Right.
You're not just going to go out willy-nilly. You want to put on a full armor, your bulletproof vest. If there's a bulletproof helmet, whatever it is, you're going to hide, you're going to duck. You're
going to put on that Kevlar helmet.
Kevlar helmet, what he said. All of that because you realize it is dangerous.
Right.
But the enemy is so coy and slick. And he comes at us now, not just overtly, like here I am, but covertly, and we are caught slipping.
I want to address a comment. Mr. Wolf said, wisdom comes from experience most of the time, right? I want to challenge you on that one, Tommy. Wisdom is supposed to come from obedience, obeying the laws of the land. In other words, hey man, you can't swim. No, I can't swim. Nobody's ever taught you how to swim. Nope. Don't go get in that water. Right? That's wisdom. Experience, comes with consequences. Nobody has a consequence-free experience. If you learn something the hard way, that means you went through something to get to the knowledge that you have now. In other words, when we were kids, don't you put that fork in that wall socket. Now you know never to do that again, right? Because you could have learned that from the beginning, but by just taking heed to the instructions. But we should learn all of our lessons through obedience. Like somebody gives you some advice. Hey man, you know, it might not be wise to do that because of A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. Man, I don't believe that, man. You know, that ain't necessarily how I got it. Oh, okay, great. You go do it. Now you got to deal with the consequences of whatever you've done. Yeah, you are wise now. Mm-hmm. But it came at a cost.
Right.
When we could have gotten that wisdom for free by just being obedient to the information that was given to us. And I think a lot of times, because we hear experience is the greatest teacher. No, it's really not. Experience is a lesson that you'll never forget.
Yeah. And it might teach you something, but it didn't have to happen.
No, it's not the best teacher. That's what I'm arguing. Right, it's a teacher, but it's not the best teacher. The best teacher is obedience.
That's right.
You know what? I just saw Bob go through that when Bob did that. I'm not doing that.
I know that's right.
That's wisdom.
And I think that's a perfect segue to the fourth and last thing,
yes,
as far as the solutions to controlling your emotions. We talked about identifying what those triggers are, identifying how did it make you feel, and then what was your response as a result of the trigger and how it made you feel. And the last one is submitting control of your emotions to God.
That's right.
Y'all, that word submit is heavy on so many levels. Because to me, the opposite of submitting something is the fact that you're holding on or trying to control something. When you submit, like you watch these movies and the police got you cornered, they want you to submit, they want you to give yourself up. And if you're doing this and trying to hold it in, you're never going to get to the point of submission. And in essence, it is a faith walk that you are taking. Lord, I don't know how I'm going to get rid of this trigger, but the burden is heavy. It hurts. It makes me angry, but I know I serve a perfect God and I'm going to give it to you. That is easier said than done.
It is.
And if we had the potion for it, we'd be millionaires, right? If we had, but that's all we can say. You got to give it to God.
Yeah. And let's be practical. I want people to understand this from a practical sense.
Please.
When we say give it to God, right? We're not saying, you're gonna give it to this entity and hope for the best.
Right.
That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is buy into the principles that God has already laid out for us as we live on this earth. There are principles God has laid out. Hill has mentioned one of them. He says a kind word turns away wrath.
That's right.
Now, is that 100% true in every scenario? No. Because you could be just as kind and they still knock you upside your head.
That's right.
But what that principle is stating, that you will get more positive by taking that route than you would get negative. That's true. So we have to apply those principles, saying, okay, God, I am not in control of this, obviously, because I have yet in my X amount of years of living been able to do the opposite of what I've been doing. So God, can you help me? Right? That doesn't mean that you now have been, just God has said, okay, now you no longer have no responsibility. Right. I'll do everything now.
Right.
No.
It never means that.
No, God is saying, okay, great. I'm just going to keep bringing it back to your remembrance, what you should do in those moments. So now when that trigger comes again, God's going to say, remember, just don't say anything.
You can ask him for your help, but you still got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
Because faith without works is dead.
Is doorknob dead.
Doorknob dead.
Yeah.
But he will help you through it.
Exactly.
And help you get to the other side where you're like, wow, there was a time I would have reacted this way. There was a time I would have cussed him out.
There's a Bible verse, and I want to say it's somewhere in Revelation, and I hate that I cannot remember the specific chapter and verse, but it talks about those who will enter into heaven will be those who overcome. And it is powerful if you don't overcome some of your challenges, you're not going where you think you're going, and you're not going to get what you think you deserve. It's when we decide, I'm no longer going to allow that thing to keep controlling me, to doing opposite of what I said I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we have to get to this point of recognizing Revelations 3:12. What does it say?
Let me pick a version. What's this? Can you see it? New one who is okay. There's the NIV. Let's go to the King James version.
Okay.
Do you see it here?
You just passed it.
King James. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him my new name.
Listen, we have to learn how to stop believing that our challenges are just going to disappear. God is already put within all of us to defeat any challenge that we face. But the only way we can defeat those challenges is by applying his principles.
Amen.
That's it. You know, some of us, it's easier for some things, for some people, and it's harder for some things for those same people. You know, every challenge is not going to be easy to overcome. But the deal is, you can overcome it. You know, they talk about being more than a conqueror. You know, all of those things, you still have to conquer something. You know what I'm saying? So we have to really, really get into that growth mindset of saying, listen, I know this has been a challenge for me, but I'm choosing today to no longer allow this thing to control me and to make me susceptible to consequences that I'm not willing to deal with. So guys, we really, really do appreciate you all, Hillis and Angela, Dion, all of you guys who've been really, really commenting
and interacting. Angela said, God wishes for us to return to his joy.
Yes.
That's with a capital H.
Yes.
I mean, it's like we lament longer than we need to.
Yeah, exactly. We tarry too long in certain situations.
That's right.
We could have been freed a long time ago if we had just did what we needed to do. So guys, look, again, as we said, this is the 9th principle of our 10th relationship principle. And so next week, we're excited about next week. We're excited about next week.
Are we going to tell them, or we going to say it's a surprise? We can tell them the name of the principle.
Yeah, we can tell the name of the principle. The name of the principle is
have shared activities.
Have shared goals and activities.
Goals and activities.
You want to have shared goals and activities with your significant other.
So we're going to be doing an activity, and it's going to be involving some other people.
Yep.
And you don't want to miss it. We are going to have a ball because we talk about some intense, deep stuff as it relates to, you know, relationships with people. However, just because it's deep doesn't mean marriage doesn't have parts of it where it can be fun.
Exactly.
And you're doing things together and you're enjoying one another's company. So we're going to have a little fun with you guys on next week. Babe, tell them about some future show stuff.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that. And after this 10th principle, because, you know, for the last 10 or 11 weeks, we've been going over those 10 relationship principles. And so, again, we're going to end it next week with our final principles, shared goals, and activities. But after that, we want to, we want to have a series that we're going to call the Real Marriages, Real Talk series. And this is going to be a compilation of couples, everyday couples who are willing to come on the show with us, talk about some of their marital experiences, so we can just have a conversation about some of the things they've shared. We'll talk about some of the things we've shared in that same principle. We want the everyday couples.
I was just about to say,
real
everyday married couples.
Because we don't want you all to think that, we're always having just experts on the show.
Right.
We want you all to know that what does marriage look like? Because a lot of people who are not married want to know what marriage really looks like.
Yes, and you don't have to, don't have to be an expert to share a story in which you overcame.
Exactly.
And came out on the other side positively. Anybody can glean something from that.
Right.
But this show, or should I say this series that we're going to be doing with Real marriages and real couples, we just want to be able to give you an opportunity to make an impact in the lives of other people. Like we do this every week. This is something we're passionate about. However, so many of us wear this mask day to day. You don't want anybody to know what's going on in your marriage. And I get it and I respect it because everybody's got to do it when they're ready. However, in the meantime, as far as the kingdom of God and what's happening to our marriages and ultimately our families, how that marriage is affecting our family, it's hurting when we don't share a word that can empower another marriage. So that's really what this is about. This is not about exposing like, oh, put yourself on Front Street like that.
No, and we wouldn't do that anyway.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that anyway.
You have never seen us do that to any couple on this show.
We just do that to each other.
Right, because that's fun. But anyway, so what we're asking you to do is to email us your marriage story, with the highs, the lows, and the challenges that you've overcome. And, some of the challenges that you may be still working on. And email it to our email address at contact@rrcgroup.org. Okay. And so what we'll do is we will read your story. Put it in the
message, yeah.
We'll read your story, and of course we'll respond back to you via email, and then of course we will then schedule your show. Just figure out which Sunday it would be most convenient for you and your significant other. Hillis, man, I would love for you and your wife to be on here, man. Hillis has been a longtime friend from Huntsville, Alabama, from Oakwood University. So I would really, really appreciate Hillis, you joining us.
rrcgroup.org, right?
Contact@rrcgroup.org.
I knew I felt like I was missing something in my spirit.
It's right there.
Did you see what? And I'll put it in the message too. Did you see what that Angela put? Do we get a certificate for attending all the sessions? Laugh out loud. Angela, have you been here since relationship principle number 1? We already got something for you.
Right.
We talked to you about that.
Yep.
The T-shirt.
That Angela is something.
I'm telling you, she's gonna clean us out. I also put our email in the messages so that you can always go back. You don't have to necessarily fast forward through the email to see it. Contact@rrcgroup.org. If you and your spouse, I know sometimes one spouse may not want to do it, the other may want to. And let me just say this about us before we go. We've done many presentations, marriage presentations. And one thing I can truly say that we have been told that the way in which we manage other couples, we don't do it in a way where you feel like we're putting you on Front Street.
Exactly.
We try to do it in a way that disarms everyone, but we can still have healthy, honest, transparent conversation.
Introspective
conversation. Right. So we don't even shift it towards, you trying to blame him and him trying to blame you.
Exactly.
It's really about what do I need to do for myself to help this marriage.
Exactly. So again, guys, we are looking forward to getting your responses via email. Again, we are talking about our series, Real Marriage, Real Talk, and we would love to have you guys to give us an entry. Tell us your story. Tell us some of the things that you've had challenges with, the things that you've overcome, and possibly, again, some of the things that you may still be dealing with. And what we'll do is we'll have a dialogue. And our prayer is that through this dialogue, your story can help free someone else.
Baby, let me get some clarification for the people. When they email us, are they going to tell us their story at the time, or they're simply going to email us to tell us they're interested, and then we give them more information?
No, they're going to email us their story.
Okay, their marriage story?
Yes, their marriage story.
Okay.
Email your marriage story with the highs, the lows, and the challenges you have overcome, and the ones you are still working on. That's, baby, it's in the feed. Literally, all they have to do is go to the end of the feed. They will see all of that information.
I was trying to avoid them having to do that, but it's all good to where
they still got to scroll down and find the.
They have options.
Yeah, so just.
I would rather do that than try to find it through the video, but to each his own.
Yeah, so I tell you that, we're looking forward to it, and we're going to make this a very, very fun and exciting series. So again, tune in next week. Tell your friends. We're going to have a very, very fun. We'll just tell them this much. We're going to have 3 other couples on the show, and we're going to do some shared activities that's going to be fun. And I think it'll be definitely entertaining. and informative. And you know, we'll bring out what we were trying to bring out toward the end of the show. So you guys tune in, and we thank you again for joining us on Relationship Real Talk. And until next week, peace.
Holla, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.